time to just re-energize and get ready for the next week, okay? We made it through January, which is crazy. I can't believe it. It was the longest month of my life, okay? Okay. Anyway, I'm sure, as you can see, tonight we are going to be reading Harry Potter and the Sorcerers. Stone, 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 Harry first question he could ever remember asking his Aunt Petunia was how he had got it. In the car crash when your parents died, she had said, and don't ask questions. What? Okay, that was a question. I'd probably be punched in the nose for asking that. Don't ask questions. That was the first rule for a quiet life with the Dursleys. Uncle Vernon entered the kitchen as Harry was turning over the bacon. Comb your hair, he barked, by way of morning greeting. About once a week, Uncle Vernon looked over the top of his newspaper and shouted that Harry needed a haircut. Harry must have had more haircuts than the rest of the boys in his class put together, but it made no difference. His hair simply grew that way all over the place. Wow. That's crazy. Oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't go over the picture. I am so rude. In this little picture, we have a chameleon. If you know what's about to happen, you probably know why. They're going to go somewhere for Mr. Dudley's birthday. Anyway, it's a fun little swivel back out and up and around this red chameleon. Well, I guess he's red and green, and he has two little legs on this side and two other legs on the other side. And then here we have a little spider. That little spider, it looks like a little black widow. I see some red on him. If you don't like spiders, I'm so sorry. Don't look at them, okay? I'm not laughing that you don't like spiders. I didn't think, if you don't like spiders, do not look. Oh my gosh. Okay. Harry was frying eggs by the time Dudley arrived in the kitchen with his mother. Dudley looked a lot like Uncle Vernon. He had a large pink face, not much neck, small watery blue eyes, and thick blonde hair that lay smoothly on his thick, fat head. Aunt Petunia often said that Dudley looked like a baby angel. Harry often said that Dudley looked like a pig in a wig. Harry put the plates of egg and bacon on the table, which was difficult as there wasn't much room. Dudley, meanwhile, was counting his presents. His face fell. 36, he said, looking up at his mother and father. That's two less than last year. Darling, you haven't even counted Auntie March's present. See, it's here under this big one from Mummy and Daddy. All right, 37 then, said Dudley, going red in the face. Harry, who could see a huge Dudley tantrum coming on, began wolfing down his bacon as fast as possible in case Dudley turned the table over. Aunt Petunia obviously scented danger too, because she said quickly, "And we'll buy you another 2 presents while we're out today. How's that, Pumpkin?" Pumpkin, bro, come on. 2 more presents, is that all right? Dudley thought for a moment. It looked like hard work. Finally, he said slowly, "So I'll have 39 sweetums," said Aunt Petunia. Oh. Dudley sat down heavily and grabbed the nearest parcel. All right then. Uncle Vernon chuckled. Little Tyke wants his money's worth just like his father. Attaboy, Dudley. He ruffled Dudley's hair. Why are you encouraging this spoil? Okay, you know what? Whatever. And I honestly believe that a lot of parents do this now, and it's like, you gotta stop. That's a controversial opinion. I don't think parents are very good right now, but anyway. That's a very big generalization. You know what? If Mrs. Fig had broken her leg, but it wasn't easy when he reminded himself it would be a whole year before he had to look at Tibbles, Snowy, Mr. Paws, and Tufty again. We could phone Marge, Uncle Vernon suggested. Don't be silly, Vernon. She hates the boy. Anyone that hates it's weird to hate kids, okay? The Dursleys often spoke about Harry like this, as though he wasn't there, or rather, as though he was something very nasty that couldn't understand them, like a slug. What about what's-her-name, your friend Yvonne, on holiday in Majorca? Is that what it's... I'm sorry if I butchered that. Snapped Aunt Petunia. You could just leave me here, Harry put in hopefully. He'd be able to watch what he wanted on television for a change, and maybe even have a go on Dudley's computer. Aunt Petunia looked as though she'd just swallowed a lemon. And come back and find the house in ruins, she snarled. I won't blow up the house, said Harry, but they weren't listening. I suppose we could take him to the zoo, said Aunt Petunia slowly, and leave him in the car. What? What? Oh my gosh, this is crazy. My throat. I think I need to get a drink. That's probably what that's a sign of. Wow, y'all, that is crazy. That is very crazy, okay? Anyway, so sorry. It's still going. No, it's a tad. That car's new. He's not sitting in it alone. Dudley began to cry loudly. Oh my gosh. Why? Please stop. Little frog in my throat. Dudley began to cry loudly. In fact, he wasn't really crying. It had been years since he'd really cried, but he knew that if he screwed up his face and wailed, his mother would give him anything he wanted. Dinky Duddydums, don't cry. Mummy won't let him spoil your special day, she cried, flinging her arms around him. I don't want him to come, Dudley yelled between huge pretend sobs. He always spoils everything. He shot Harry a nasty grin through the gap in his mother's arms. face. But all he tried to do, as he shouted at Uncle Vernon through the locked door of his cupboard, was jump behind the big bins outside the kitchen doors. We have some presents, all of Dudley's. Let's see how many there are. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. There's 25 presents right here. 25. Okay, not anymore, not any less, but there might be more actually, because there's supposed to be 37 with Miss Aunt Marge's, okay, but here there's only 25. Anyway, Harry supposed that the wind must have caught him mid jump. Bro, if you're so light that the wind is carrying you like a kite, it's time to talk to a trusted adult. Like, tell Mrs. Fig that you're being abused or something. I don't know. The heat turned back on. I'm sure that you can hear the heat is back on. Anyway, but today nothing was going to go wrong. It was even worth being with Dudley and Piers to be spending the day at somewhere that wasn't school, his cupboard, or Mrs. Fig's cabbage-smelling living room. Cabbage smells terrible. That's horrible. While he drove, Uncle Vernon complained to Aunt Petunia. He liked to complain about things: people at work, Harry, the council, Harry, the bank, and Harry were just a few of his favorite subjects. This morning it was motorbikes. Roaring along like maniacs, the young hoodlums, he said, as a motorbike overtook them. I had a dream about a motorbike, said Harry, remembering suddenly. It was flying. Okay, I'm sorry, but when you are treated like you are, why would you ever say that? If I was Harry, I would not speak freely, okay? I would only spoke when spoken to. I'm not gonna lie, because I'm not trying to get punched or beat or something, or locked in a freaking cupboard for a month, or until Christmas. Like, oh my gosh. Uncle Vernon nearly crashed into the car in front. He turned right around in his big seat and yelled at Harry, his face like a gigantic beetroot with a mustache. Motorbikes don't fly. Dudley and Piers snickered. I know they don't, said Harry. It was only a dream. See, and now why are you talking back? Harry, you make it so much worse. But he had wished he hadn't said anything. Yep, there you go. If there was one thing the Dursleys hated even more than his asking questions, it was his talking about anything, acting in a way it shouldn't, no matter if it was in a dream or even a cartoon. They seemed to think he might get dangerous ideas, so they know that, like, it's not getting suppressed. But I just don't understand, like, what their goal is. Like, it's not working, obviously. Anyway, it was a very sunny Saturday, and the zoo was crowded with families. The Dursleys bought Dudley and Pierre's large chocolate ice creams at the entrance, and then, because the smiling lady in the van had asked Harry what he wanted before they could hurry him away, they bought him a cheap lemon iced lolly. It wasn't bad either, Harry thought, licking it as they watched the gorilla scratching its head and looking remarkably like Dudley, except that it wasn't blonde. Harry had the best morning he'd had in a long time. He was careful to walk a little way apart from the Dursleys so that Dudley and Piers, who were starting to get bored with the animals by lunchtime, wouldn't fall back on their favorite hobby of hitting him. They ate in the zoo restaurant, and when Dudley had a tantrum because his knickerbocker glory wasn't big enough, Uncle Vernon bought him another one, and Harry Harry was allowed to finish the verse. That's what's up. What is a knickerbocker glory? This sounds like a slur. I'm so sorry. Anyway, for real, if anyone is watching from the UK, please tell me what that is. Harry felt afterwards that he should have known it was all too good to last. After lunch, they went to the reptile house. It was cool and dark in here, with lit windows all along the walls. Behind visitor was Aunt Petunia hammering on the door to wake you up. We'll come back to the pictures. At least he got to visit the rest of the house. Anyway, here we have the gorilla. I love gorillas. I think that, I don't know, they have a special place in my heart. They're so similar to us, and when I look at them, I don't know, it's like, I just feel a weird connection. Is that very weird? I'm sure someone feels the same way, but it's just, I don't know, like, they just seem so similar to us. Anyway, he's holding a carrot, and Dudley over here is holding his ice cream, which low-key does not look that good to me, because I'm gonna sound like such a little sissy. I don't like vanilla ice cream, okay? I think it's a little too plain. I'm a chocolate girly, a mint chocolate chip. Oh, I love mint chocolate chip. However, my boyfriend and his family say that mint-flavored things like mint chocolate chip ice cream and such, they don't all say, my boyfriend says if I wanted to eat toothpaste, I would, okay? Which always makes me chuckle. Anyway, here we can get a better look at Dudley, okay, and his blonde hair, which honestly looks just as crazy as Harry's, so I'm not really getting the problem, I guess. Anyway, there's them. The snake suddenly opened its beady eyes, slowly, very slowly. It raised its head until its eyes were on a level with Harry's. It winked. Harry stared. Then he looked quickly around to see if anyone was watching. They weren't. He looked back at the snake and winked too. The snake jerked its head towards Uncle Vernon and Dudley, then raised its eyes to the ceiling. It gave Harry a look that quite plainly I'm sorry. I get that all the time. I know, Harry murmured through the glass, though he wasn't sure the snake could hear him. It must be really annoying. The snake nodded vigorously. Where do you come from anyway? Harry asked. The snake jabbed its tail at a little sign next to the glass. Harry peered at it. Boa constrictor, Brazil. Was it nice there? The boa constrictor jabbed its tail at the sign again, and Harry read on. This specimen was bred in the zoo. Oh, I see. So you've never been to Brazil? What time? If Juan's here, I'm not gonna be happy, okay? That's my boyfriend's name, Juan, okay? Oh, I see. So you've never been to Brazil? As the snake shook its head, a deafening shout behind Harry made both of them jump. Dudley, Mr. Dursley, come and look at this snake. You won't believe what it's doing. Dudley came waddling towards them as fast as he could. Out of the way, you, he said, punching Harry in the ribs. Caught by surprise, Harry fell hard on the concrete floor. What came next happened so fast no one saw how it happened. 1 second, Piers and Dudley were leaning right up close to the glass. The next, they had leapt back with howls of horror. Harry sat up and gasped. The glass front of the boa constrictor's tank had vanished. The great snake was uncoiling itself rapidly, slithering out onto the floor. People throughout the reptile house screamed and started running for the exits. As the snake slid swiftly past him, Harry could have sworn a low hissing voice said, Brazil, here I come. Thanks, amigo. Why would the snake speak Spanish? It's never been... Anyway, okay. The keeper of the reptile house was in shock. But the glass, he kept saying, where did the glass go? The zoo director himself made Aunt Petunia a cup of strong sweet tea while he apologized over and over again. Piers and Dudley could only gibber. As far as Harry had seen, the snake hadn't done anything except snap playfully at their heels as it passed. But by the time they were all back in Uncle Vernon's car, Dudley was telling them how it had nearly bitten off his leg, while Piers was swearing it had tried to squeeze him to death. But worst of all, for Harry at least, was Piers calming down enough to say, Harry was talking to it, weren't you, Harry? Bro, you are the biggest op. Okay, what is your problem? Anyway, here we can see Harry, and if you don't like snakes, I'm sorry, risk sneaking to the kitchen for some food. He'd lived with the Dursleys almost 10 years. 10 miserable years, as long as he could remember. Ever since he'd been a baby and his parents had died in that car crash. He couldn't remember being in the car when his parents had died. Sometimes, when he strained his memory during long hours in his cupboard, he came up with a strange vision, a blinding flash of green light and a burning pain on his forehead. This, he supposed, was the crash, though he couldn't imagine where all that green light came from. He couldn't remember his parents at all. His aunt and uncle never spoke about them, and of course he was forbidden to ask questions. There were no photographs of them in the house. When he had been younger, Harry had dreamed and dreamed of some unknown relation coming to take him away, but it had never happened. The Dursleys were his only family, yet sometimes he thought, or maybe hoped, that strangers in the street seemed to know him. Very strange strangers they were, too. A tiny man in a violet top hat had bowed to him once while out shopping with Aunt Petunia and Dudley. After asking Harry furiously if he knew the man, Aunt Petunia had rushed them out of the shop without buying anything. So they do go to the shops, and no one notices that this boy is, very neglected. That's interesting. A wild-looking old woman dressed all in green had waved merrily at him once on the bus. A bald man in a very long purple coat had actually shaken his hand in the street the other day, and then walked away without a word. The weirdest thing about all these people was the way they seemed to vanish the second Harry tried to get a closer look. At school, Harry had no one. Everybody knew that Dudley's gang hated that odd Harry Potter in his bag-heeled clothes and broken glasses, and nobody liked to disagree with Dudley's gang. Anyway, here we see the long boa constrictor. The long boa constrictor. He goes across 2 pages. If you don't like snakes, I'm so sorry. And he whines, and he's chasing some of these little schoolgirls, as well as this. I don't know what this man is, but he looks like he sells popcorn, and then I guess the janitor, cleaning man or something, I'm not sure. And here we have a ladder and a little broom on the checkered floor. Oh, that was the end of chapter 2. Period. Okay, guys. I guess that's all for tonight, okay? So we're gonna stop there. I didn't expect the chapter to end right there, but that's okay. I would like to say thank